toss stuff on my lawn. Well, the new thing is people, so I'm used to go picking stuff up. Well, the new thing is people walk their dogs with their dog bags. I tossed them over the fence. Do you want them? No. So I took people's dog bags in my backyard now. Okay. Come on, really?
Yes.
So your name is Lee Sterling Lee. Nice to meet you. And that one's we're good? I know. Your reputation precedes you.
So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here in person at the St. Francis Center, and thank you to those who are joining us online on Facebook and through ajax.ca/mth. My name is Rachel Wraith. I work in the Mayor's office, and it's great to be here with all of you this evening. So tonight is a very interactive session. We have some really fun activities planned. There'll be an opportunity to ask the Mayor questions directly. We also have a fun video to show, as well as trivia and some prize packs to be won as well. So we just ask that you allow people to ask their questions, you allow the Mayor to have the opportunity to address the question, and that we give everybody the equal opportunity this evening to ask their questions and to give them that space for it. So I'll like to turn it over now to Mayor Collier. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel. Is this... Are we on? Are we good? Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the second Live with the Mayor. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more people streaming in as we go, but you can really tell when we get the nice weather. So that's, it's to be expected. Once you get closer to summer, people tend to going away and being further. So I didn't really expect a huge turnout, but thank you very much for all of you for coming and getting engaged in your community. And I'm sure we're going to have some great dialogue today. I just want to introduce a few of my colleagues who are here in no particular order, just as soon as I see them. Ashmi Khan is our Ward 2 councillor. Joanne Dyes, Regional Ward 3. Local Ward 1, Rob Tyler Morin, and Regional Ward 2, Sterling Lee. Did I miss anybody? Didn't miss anybody. Thank you for coming, guys. And a couple of our staff are here. We've got the two Rachels, Rachel 1, Rachel 2, and my assistant Jen as well. So thank you, everyone, for being, and as well, all of you, and my beautiful wife, Rose. Sorry, I almost forgot. Yes. Easily my biggest fan. But thank you very much for coming. Usually, I would just turn it right over to questions, but I just want to address two items before we start tonight because there's been some stuff in the papers and things, so I figure we might as well have that discussion right off the bat. And the first is compliance audit. There was a notification and the agenda published on the town website today. A compliance audit has been requested on my finances. As part of the Municipal Act, we all have to file our financial reports at the end, and there has been a group that has applied. So this Friday there will be a compliance audit to have a look at my financials. We've given our answers. My team is confident, and I'm confident that we followed the rules to the letter and everything's good, and it will follow the process. So if anybody wants to ask questions like that, I'm not avoiding it, but it would be inappropriate to ask those questions tonight because the audit is going on, the compliance audit committee will sit on Friday and they will make that decision. After that, fine, questions are good, but until then, it's not appropriate to ask because the process is still pending. The other is, you may have seen two articles regarding an MFDA fine about me that happened it happened in March, but it actually happened over 2 years ago. And same thing, as a financial advisor for the last 22 years, it's a very tightly regulated industry, and I've gone through many audits. And this is completely unrelated to the town, but I've gone through many audits, and in June 2017, the auditors went through and they found some stuff that they didn't like. And so it went through a hearing, and same thing, there is a process. Now, these went back to 2006, 2008, 2009. I just want to be very clear. I went through the process, paid a fine, that's the end of it. This is basically the equivalent of a speeding ticket in the financial services industry. At no time was my license ever restricted. At no point was any client ever harmed. All clients were interviewed, and all clients remain my clients. And I did not profit financially from anything, and no client experienced any loss. And those are all the facts that are stated in the settlement documents. So Yep, it went through. There were some things, we're talking about things like if you're a client and you come in and saw me, and we do about a quarter inch of paperwork is an annual review, and we missed a date. So after you left, I filled in the date and submitted it. Technically, I'm supposed to have the client come back and initial that change. I had a client from Texas who faxed me his stuff. This was back in 2008 or 9, and I noticed the expiration date on their driver's license was expired. So I called him, got the updated date, wrote it in, submitted the form. Technically, that's altering a form. I should have the client initial that change. All right, so that's what we're talking about. Anyway, if anybody had any questions on that, I just wanted to be forward and address that right off the bat. It's not anything to do with the town, but I would rather just be upfront about that since it was in the news. And one article was a little bit overzealous and missed a lot of the details, and the other article was quite fair and covered all the details. So I just wanted to get that out there. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Okay. So let's get on. Oh, Councillor Lisa Bauer is here. Thanks for coming, Lisa. For Ward 3. Oh, and Marilyn Crawford, Regional Councillor, Ward 1 and 2. Or Ward 1. Thanks, Marilyn. Let's get to the questions. Who wants to go first? Azar, are you waving, or do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to go live and give an opportunity not only our town, but we are few towns who are doing this digital communication through, and we are very proud of because the word of the mouth and the communication mentioned. My question regarding youth program, as you know that I'm doing since last 10 years. Now more and more youth, not only from Ajax across Durham coming in our program, and I'm very proud and honored you always support when you was even regional councillor, that Impact gave us the room as a non-profit organization once, but the demand is so much high right now because I am starting the artificial intelligence and continuous improvement program. Mm-hmm. So how the process is, you can help us to do more than one time this event because I cannot charge to the youth and the demand is very high in our town. Even though this summer the demand is continuous coming, so I need, as usual, your support. Thank you.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Azar runs a very successful youth leadership program where youth come in and they learn, it's through Toastmasters, and they come in and they learn important things about speaking in public, maintain eye contact, don't say all the time, how to carry on sentences, how to things that are very important to know and will really help youth achieve. And you've had over 700 graduates in the past 10 years or so?
And one more information that Toastmaster International Head Office approved new Toastmaster Club across the town and library at G Center.
Oh, good.
So we already started for all the business entrepreneurs.
Good. Excellent job. Well, thank you for taking that on. And anything to do with youth is something that we obviously really support. And back since the early days, I've been able to help you a few times get some meeting rooms. And the way Impact Ajax works, we have a no-grant program. So the way Youth Impact Ajax works is we have a group of funds allocated from our slots revenues, and community groups can apply for funding, and our free use of space is also part of that funding. So if the HMS Ajax room, for instance, is $400, and you apply through Impact Ajax, the Impact Ajax will pay that $400, right? But you still have to go through the process. And what it's meant to do is to get new groups off the ground. So we'll fund it for the first year or two, but after that, we're hoping that people will become self-sufficient and be able to move on. So I'll have to look into that with Tracy, because I don't know where your application is with Impact, but I'll definitely work with you and make sure we find you some space to continue. And I'm glad to hear that you now have the new program running at G Center.
Okay,
so
thank you. It's an honor because this is for entrepreneurs,
mm-hmm.
and it's a complete process. So we have kickoff meeting, anyone want to improve. So every Thursday, 4 to 5 at G Center, we are starting our new Toastmaster called G Center.
Excellent. So there's your plug. If anybody is interested in Toastmasters, there you go. Who's next? Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Is that Candy?
Hi, Sean. It's Candy.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I just want to thank you for taking our questions. Sean, as you know, the town of Ajax, we invested with the waterfront improvement project. I'm not really quite sure the official name. Many of us that do live south of Range Line, this was a project. Sean, that, you know, most of us were against.
Were you
But-
talking about Paradise Park?
Yeah, Paradise
Okay. Yep.
Park. But it did go through. And what we're noticing right now on Ebony, I'm not on Ebony, but between the Lakeview and Ebony, there is a lot of flooding.
Yes.
And more so than we've ever experienced in other years. I'm not quite sure, you know, I don't know if engineering, you know, I guess techniques, if they were applied to that, but there's a lot of flooding. So just want to know what the town is doing about that flooding. Many of us are very concerned in that area. It seems that the additional parking spots that were, you know, more or less built in that area to accommodate more cars is right now there's a lot of water, you know, sort of impacting the parking lots that was really meant to have cars, right? So I'm hoping that maybe, you know, we can, you know, either have some kind of solution to that continual flooding across Lakeview and Ebony, or, you know, I'm hoping to hear some kind of, you know, your thoughts on that.
Let me give that a try. And thank you for asking that question, because I'll segue into the Paradise Park decision that we made last week after I get my answer. We were just down there the other day for a couple of things. One was for those access mats, what are they called? Ash, what are those accessibility mats that were going down? So we went down for that, and I noticed some flooding there. And then again, when we just had the mayor's ride on the weekend, also I saw some flooding through there, and we had to divert around. And I'm not sure well, I know what's causing it, it's the lake, but obviously the lake levels are higher now than they have been ever, and that's causing it. To the parking lot that you talked about, that's all permeable paving. So that parking lot is designed that any water that comes in there will filter down into the earth. It's not meant to stand and run off like standard asphalt. Those interlock bricks are meant to be permeable, so it allows the water to filter in slowly. So the way parking lots are designed now, they're supposed to hold water. Okay, they're supposed to act as small sort of stormwater management ponds and then let the water filter slowly so it doesn't flood. To the Ebony, is it range? What's the other one?
Yes, the Ebony area.
Thank you, the range line. It's
Were they put in that area in order to help with the drainage?
Are you talking about the rain gardens?
Well, I guess I'm talking about that whole area, like in terms of the.
We're doing a whole wetland restoration. You're talking about the southern area of the parking lot. That's all wetland restoration. That's TRCA is doing that for us. And all those rain gardens are meant, again, to help the water filter through so the runoff, all the salt and contaminants don't go into Lake Ontario. And that they're designed to filter through slowly. That doesn't answer the Ebony flooding. And I asked our staff about that as well, and I don't have an answer yet. Is it the culverts? Are they not cleared? I don't know that, but we are working on it. We are aware of the situation. We are working on it because this hasn't been an issue before. But that whole Pickering Beach area, in 2010, I believe it was, the Toronto Regional Conservation Authority redrew the floodplain mapping for South Ajax. And Joanne, you can probably correct me if I go wrong on this at all, but through that process, you know, houses were allowed to have been built in that area based on the old flood map. But now, with climate change and the fact that the 100-year storm, it was all based on Hurricane Hazel, but now with the floodplain, with 100-year storms happening every 2 years now, that has all changed. So when they redrew the flood mapping, now 500 homes approximately are in the floodplain. So we actually did an environmental assessment and looked upstream at what remediation measures would be necessary to protect those neighborhoods against flooding. We've identified it somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million that we need to do with the berm and some other things. So that is something that is still in process. We haven't gone ahead because there's what's called the White Belt lands in Northeast Pickering. And we were trying to get those included in the green belt, protect the headwaters, and we felt if we could do that, we could minimize flooding without spending the $1 million. It looks like those lands will be developed. I've been in conversation with that developer and basically said to them, look, the plan that I've seen does protect the headwaters. There's a lot of green space up there. But I said, we've identified remediation measures in South Ajax of about $1 million, and we shouldn't have to pay for that if it's due to your development and the feedback I got was you're right. So I will stay on that.
Okay, because I just have the mic, and this will be my last question. We've also noticed that the town has been cutting down a lot of trees in that area. Can you please speak to that? Along the Pickering Beach Road, there's been a lot of trees that's been cut down, also along the lakefront area too.
I'll guess, is that the emerald ash borer?
Yes.
Okay. I'm guessing that's probably due to the emerald ash borer, which is an invasive species, that basically all the ash trees in Ajax we've been treating them, and it's very expensive to treat, but we're not really winning the battle. A lot of them are still dying, and we're still removing them, and they are being replaced with healthy, different species. That's my guess, because I'm not aware that we're not doing any development down there, and that would be the only reason other than that we'd be clearing trees. So it's either diseased or dying, and that's why. Over here,
Sorry, I'm just going to go online. We actually have over 20 people have joined us online, so I'd just like to go to one of their questions. So Allison has a question. We recently lost a homeless gentleman who passed away last week. She says, I know we are going to be adding lockers for the use of the homeless.
Yep.
When can we expect some more good news with initiatives to help out these folks?
That's an awesome question, and that coincides perfectly with the Mayor's Gala that we held just a couple of weeks ago. Because we recognize as a council that we have a growing homeless issue in Ajax, and we need to address it. I don't know what that absolutely looks like. We had Councillor Dyes and Bauer formed a homelessness task force. They're working with a number of partnerships, like Salvation Army, CDCD, Joanne's House, Ajax Library, Region of Durham, a number of other partners on trying to figure, and one of the things they identified was a need for lockers, and they have this in Oshawa. And what this is if you have homeless people, a big part of the problem is they need somewhere to put their stuff. I mean, you can't go to work and leave your worldly belongings sitting out. They also need an address, because in order to get any kind of government servicing or anything else, you need to have a home address. So that was one of the initiatives that was identified, and we were able to, at the Mayor's Gala, sell 10 lockers. So we've got the funding raised for those 10 lockers. We're working now to decide where those are going to go and how that's exactly going to work. But the other proceeds for the gala, we raised about $110,000 last Saturday night through the generosity of businesses in our community. And yeah, it was very, very impressive. And these donors are the same people that come to every golf tournament, every gala at every community. And the generosity is just overwhelming. So it was great. It was a great event. Rose was the co-chair. It, I think, blew other events out of the water, and you've set the bar very high for next year. But raising that amount of money was great, because now we can really do something. So $50,000 of that, the two sponsors of choice, or charities of choice, were Salvation Army and Joanne's House. Salvation Army, we're giving them $50,000 to buy a community vehicle. That community vehicle is going to be something that can be equipped for meals, for all sorts of different services, and can actually go out into the community and bring the things that they need to outreach to these people. One of the things I've been pretty clear on is I don't want to create an incubator to attract more. I want to address the issue that we have here in Ajax. How can we get these people the services and get them connected to what they need to help get them back into society, not to just facilitate being homeless. So and we won't get that 100%, but at least if we can get even a small percentage, I call that a win. So that vehicle will be something that we can use in Ajax for all sorts of different things, and will really help address this. The other thing is Joanne's House helps homeless youth. And they have a program where obviously homeless youth become homeless adults. And so if they can get to them when they are youth and keep them in the home and help facilitate that, they can help avoid having the homeless adult issue. So they have a program that's running now, and through the funding that we've given them, they're hopefully going to be able to extend that for another year. And we might have to look at next year, and keep it going. But at least that gives them another year, so we know that program will run for 2 years. So those are the things we're able to do to help address. The unfortunate gentleman that passed away, I understand it was an aneurysm, and it's unfortunate it happened there, and it would have happened, wherever it happened, it would have happened, unfortunately. And that's incredibly sad that anybody in this day and age would die on a park bench. I don't know how to completely avoid that, but that was just unfortunate, something beyond our control. So I hope I answered that properly, and thank the online person for that.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Sean Collier, for Mayor. First of all, I want to congratulate for the yesterday bike with Mayor. That was very well done.
Oh, that was awesome.
And to the council as well for putting it together. And I also want to congratulate on continuing with the process of using single-use plastic, of what they call it, because I noticed you're drinking from the jug and the glass over there. Same was the last time as well. My question is a little tough, as at least I think it is tough, because I'm just an ordinary citizen with very little knowledge. So I noticed that, as you discussed last time, you're going to have electric car charge installed in various places. One of them got installed at McGill Community Center. Mm-hmm. Now, over there, it cost $1 to turn it up. Now, the one which was in the Longos Plaza on Harwood and Roseland, over there charging $5 for 30 minutes or beyond. I'm pretty sure everybody who has gone to any grocery store knows that it takes more than 30 minutes to come out of any grocery store. They are more like a casino, no way exit easy to find. So that being said, that $5 or the $1 to plug in, now that speed over there gives you about 20 kilometers per hour. So that means you're paying more money versus getting a gas car. So I was trying to understand how we can address this issue.
Well, it's a good question. It's not one I'm going to be able to completely answer because I didn't know we were actually charging a fee to use the ones in the McLean Community Center. I know we're also going to have them installed at the Ajax Town Hall and also at the Ajax Community Center and probably ARC. I haven't seen the setup there, but if we're doing it the other two, I'm sure it will go there. I don't have a full answer to that because I wasn't even aware, but I will look into it. I know we did apply for some provincial funding a couple of years ago. We did not get it, and that's why those aren't installed yet. We had to make them capital items and install them after when we had the money for them. But I'll have to look into that more. I can't speak to the costing of it, but I don't believe for a second that you don't have lots of knowledge in this. I've seen your electric vehicle. It's very nice.
So we're just going to go to another online question from Chris. Recycling bin cover program. How long is the pilot project going to go on? When will the results be reported on? He seems to experience a lot of trash blowing away, and it's a huge problem in the area close to Ajax Casino. He says he's constantly cleaning up after neighbors, and he gets the town's help by reporting it through Ajax.
Well, first of all, thank you for taking the initiative and cleaning it up, because if everybody did that, we wouldn't have the situation we have. I think everybody can probably agree that the litter situation has gone down considerably in Ajax. Our staff have been working incredibly hard on the boulevard maintenance, on the litter cleanup, initiatives like the recyclable lids. And I just want to touch on that quickly, and I'm going to ask Marilyn to maybe help me on this in a minute, think about an answer. With those lids, what they did was they did a landfill mine in, do you remember that? Blackstock. And they mined the landfill because back in the day, before recycling, all the metal, all the everything just went into the ground. So by going in and mining these old landfills, they get all kinds of aluminum, metal, valuable metals that they can use, and also lots of tires. So what they did was they took the tires, munched them up, and they made these lids. And so we ran a pilot project, and we volunteered Ajax for this. This is a regional initiative. We volunteered Ajax, and we did 1,000 homes. And I think it's working very well. I believe the process is going to, the pilot's going to run, is it 6 months or a year?
It's done.
Oh, it's done? Okay.
We made an awesome motion that's coming to council on Wednesday.
Okay. Well, Marilyn sits on the Works Committee, so that's why I'm not picky on you. But what is the motion?
The motion is to make this a permanent product.
Good.
Product, and to continue to develop it. The prototype is not going to be the permanent, what it's going to look like. They're going to adjust it to make it fit on all recycling
Good.
bins. The other thing is that the motion includes having new blue boxes sent out to all the residents, including that plus 2 lids to the resident, and also, okay. Do I have to say everything again?
No, you're good.
Because I can't remember it. I don't have the full motion. It's a really big motion.
Okay.
But it is to make sure that this is
Okay.
permanent.
The
I know what
program
it
will
was,
continue.
To get naming rights on it so
Right.
that it doesn't cost anything, to get the patent. The patent is underway now so that, again, if another municipality wants it, they got to buy it from us,
Yep.
which is always awesome. So that's part of all that motion that's coming out on Wednesday.
And you're speaking to, that's an awesome, it has been
It
an
is an
awesome
awesome
pilot.
motion.
So, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. I'll talk to you about a couple other things I volunteered the town for in a minute, but there was that one, and we did talk to Craig and Mirka at the region about finding some kind of naming rights from this. Get, I don't know, Canadian Tire, Goodyear, anybody that wants to put their name on this, and they can pay for it, not us. That's non-tax revenue, and I'm always looking for non-tax revenue.
We're very close to getting that.
Yeah, so if they can patent that and also get naming rights on it, awesome, because then it doesn't cost us a cent. But I asked residents also to use a common sense approach. I mean, don't put your recyclables out the night before. It can be very windy and they'll blow all over the place. Put something heavy on top. Like I will usually put the paper on the bottom, put the plastic one on top to weigh it down. Really helps, just a bit of common sense there, and be proactive. But that's great. One of the other things I just want to talk about quickly, when it comes to recycling, because this is and I talked about this during the election, this is a huge, blinking light cost and hundreds of millions of dollars on the horizon. And we're talking about this at the region all the time because our energy from waste facility, the incinerator, is at capacity. And that cost almost $300 million to build. So it's going to cost a lot of money to expand it, but we don't want to expand it. We've done a pilot project in December last year where we took 10 tons of black garbage bags and we put them through a processing facility it's in Markham or somewhere, and they pulled it apart and they looked what's in the black bag, and they found that 50% of what's in the black bag is organics and recyclables, still in the black garbage bag. So if we can remove those through a sort facility, we create 50% capacity at the energy from waste facility, and we don't have to expand the incinerator right away. So we're looking right now at a sort facility and also anaerobic digestion, because once we remove the organics, all that dirty stuff, like we have our green bin where we pre-sort and you only put food waste, and that's a different type of compost. But all the other stuff, like dog waste, like diapers, like all that other stuff has to go through anaerobic digestion. And anaerobic digestion is composting is exposed to the air. Anaerobic digestion is composting not being exposed to the air. They capture the methane gas. It's a carbon neutral process, and we can capture that gas and sell it or use it for our fleet of vehicles, or put it back in the line with Enbridge, or use it to create electricity. That's still in the works, but this process, we just discussed this at Regional Council about a week and a half ago, and it's $160 million, something like that. But that's what's coming to deal with our waste. So there's a lot of things happening, but the other thing is we're spending, and I'll use glass for instance, we're spending $150 million to collect glass through the recycle, which we have to do because it's provincially mandated, and then we have to sort it. So $150 to collect and sort a product that we have no end market for. We used to be able to sell it all to China, and then with the National Sword Program, that stopped. So now we have all this stuff we have no market for. So, and the same with plastics. There's no, and I was going to make a joke about when you talked about the water bottle, some cardboard thing, but I'm not going to go there. But at home, the family knows I'm so against plastic bottles. I do not let them in the house. They drive me crazy. I volunteered us for the path behind the McLean Center that goes to the splash pad. We're going to do, hopefully, if the asphalt company comes through on this, a pilot project where we take the crushed glass and we use that as the sort of the gravel, the base, and then we mix some of the plastic pellets in with the asphalt and use that for the top surface. And it's in the lab right now, and if we picked a local asphalt company because I want this to be made in Ajax solution. And this will be a pilot project, and I've talked to our former Minister of the Environment, now Minister of Finance, Rod Phillips, about this, and he was very excited about it because if this goes forward, this is something that can be used provincially. But we're starting it here in Ajax. So we're trying to think of innovative ways to deal with our waste. Marilyn, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted, if you don't mind me adding,
Yeah.
that the pre-sort and the anaerobic digestion is an automatic saving of $1 million right off the bat.
That's right.
When that's bought, it's $1 million saving. And also the use of the plastic and the glass is much more durable than the current solution that we're using.
Right. And by the $1 million savings, that's in a collection type of thing. So that right away we'll start saving a bit of money there. So.
Okay, so
All
we're
right.
going to actually go to our trivia questions now.
And then we'll come back here.
And then we'll come back to questions. So it's great because you guys are all here with us live, so you have a chance to actually win prizes. So we're just going to come right out with the first question, and you'll just raise your hand. Ajax took its name from the British warship. Right over here. Perfect. Right here at the back, the HMS Ajax.
You need to
Excellent.
make these a little bit harder.
Okay, this is a true or false. Ajax is home to the largest stretch of publicly owned waterfront in southern Ontario. Right over here. True, it is. We gotta make these questions harder.
We're going to have to make these questions a bit harder.
Okay. Here's a hard one. Who was the second mayor of Ajax? Any guesses? Any guesses? Right here. Pat Bailey? No, Pat Bailey was the first mayor of Ajax. Okay, we'll try one more over here. William Parrish. No. I think we may have stumped everyone. One more guess?
I think I'm way late, but is it Bill McLean? No. I'm way late. It starts with a K.
Jen, what is it?
Ken Smith.
Ken Smith, second mayor of
Oh,
Ajax.
stumped everybody. Look at that. Look at that.
Okay, I think we have 2 more questions. The town, oh, this is really fitting considering we just had Trail Fest. True or false? The town is connected by 140 kilometers of cycling paths and trails. Anyone over here? Is that correct? It's true. Okay, excellent. We have time for one more question, and don't worry, we'll come back for another trivia break. Oh, okay. If you were here in Ajax in 2015, you'll know this one. Which sport did the town host during the 2015 Pan American Games? Over here in the back. And?
It's like baseball.
Like baseball. You got it. Baseball and softball.
There you
Thank
go.
you. All
Good
right,
job,
so before
good
we
job.
get back into questions, we have a special video.
Ooh.
Hi, Mayor Collier.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good, thanks. It's been a few months since we last chatted. I know you've been busy, so how about we catch up and chat with 30 questions?
Yep, go ahead.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. Very busy. Trail Fest, a number of other events. Had a great mayor's ride.
You seem to be everywhere. How many events have you attended recently?
Well, the schedule's pretty busy. We publish it every Monday just so residents can see what I'm up to. But I try and go to as many things as possible.
How do you keep up the pace?
I'm very driven, and I have a good staff which supports me.
What was it like watching the Raptors make history with the Ajax community?
Oh, that was amazing. We're here at Pat Bailey Square. This is where we had the first couple, and then we had to move to the Audley Rec Center because of rain. But I've never seen the community come together like that. It was awesome.
Have you been to any conferences lately?
Yeah, I had 2 conferences. I went to the FCM conference, Federation of Canadian Municipalities of Quebec City, which is great, and the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative in Wisconsin, where we talked about water quality in the Great Lakes and everything else. So yeah, it was excellent.
What are you looking forward to most this summer?
I'm looking forward to a bit of time off, but we have a lot of major events planned, things like Canada Day, things like Music in the Square here at Pat Bailey Square.
Swimming pools or lakes?
Lakes.
Cycling or running?
Cycling.
Favorite trail in Ajax?
I like the Miller Trail up near me.
And what's your favorite spot in Ajax to spend a summer day?
Well, Pat Bailey Square is pretty nice.
Any exciting events coming up in Ajax?
I mentioned Canada Day, where we're going to have all sorts of different events. We're going to have fireworks. We're going to have a lot of other things planned. And then Music in the Park right here is going to be going on as well.
Fireworks or light shows?
Oh, fireworks for sure.
Who's that?
This is Benjamin DeForest, also known as Pat Bailey. The square is named after him and the first mayor of Ajax.
What's your vision for the square?
Well, we started that. This was built for community gathering space. And we had the very well-used skating rink in the winter. We had Jurassic Park just recently, and we're going to be having a lot of other events programmed here. This is meant to be a central meeting space and community area.
Most rewarding part of the job so far?
Oh, we have a great new council. We're just watching our vision unfold is amazing.
Didn't you just host your first Mayor's Gala here?
I did actually, right up there. We were able to raise a little over $100,000 for local charities. It was an amazing event.
What are you reading right now?
Agendas. I don't have time for any casual reading these days.
Tell us about the Rainbow Gazebo at Arbor Park.
Oh, well, we had a request from the Pride community to do a rainbow crosswalk, and we weren't able to meet that request in time. So for Pride Week, we did the next best thing. We created a permanent rainbow in the Arbor Park under our gazebo there to sort of commemorate the occasion.
Any Netflix recommendations?
Oh, I haven't used my Netflix in quite some time.
Top 3 songs on your playlist?
I can guarantee it's probably something by Journey and Def Leppard, but it's whatever comes up on the shuffle at the gym.
Advice you give your younger self?
I don't know, aim high, work hard towards your goals.
Road trips or plane rides?
Plane rides,
Baseball or golf?
golf,
Hot dogs or hamburgers?
hamburgers,
Favorite summer activity?
up at the cottage.
I must say, the town's looking extra beautiful. What's different?
We have really raised the bar as far as our maintenance of our boulevards, our litter cleanup. We've declared a war on litter. We've hired a number of new staff to maintain those service levels, and we're working very hard.
What's next for Ajax?
Well, I hope to be making some very big announcements very soon. I can tell you we've made a lot of progress on our Innovation Technology Hub, and that should be coming in the fall as well.
Where are you off to?
I have a meeting with Durham Regional Police Service to discuss community safety this morning.
Can we do this again sometime?
Anytime you like.
How about Greenwood in the fall?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Sounds good. See you then.
Have a great day. So Rachel's got to come up with 30 more questions for the next one. Going to continue on? All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. Those are always fun to shoot. We've been doing a lot of different videos. They seem to be going across, okay, what am I getting known to be as one take Sean or something? We seem to be getting them done pretty good. So thank you for all your work, Rachel. We had a question over here. Who is that? I think the gentleman and the lady in the back.
Has any research been done on how to optimize the bus lanes, whether it could be turned into an HOV lane during peak hours, or whether it could be opened up to the rest of traffic to reduce congestion? I know Toronto has something similar, so I'm just wondering if that's in the future, any analysis has been done for the bus lanes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good question. Thank you for that. I am chair of transit, so I know a little bit about the transit system. And I can tell you, back when the Pulse system started, those lanes were added, and the interchanges at Westney and Salem and Harwood were all redone, and they're supposed to be timed to allow the buses to go through without having to stop. Okay, and there's supposed to be sensors, so when the bus is coming, they can allow them to go through. It doesn't work every time, but that's a theory. So we've thought about, and this has been brought up a few times, we thought about that, but a couple of things. One, it's taken quite a while for people to get used to the bus lanes and not drive in them. And part of the issue is if you allow people to drive in them some of the time, it's kind of like on-street parking. If we allow 3 hours on-street parking, who's going to police it, first of all? And it's unfortunately, human nature is going to be abused by some. Then some other people said, what if we allow school buses and other buses to use those lanes? And kind of same thing. We decided to keep it strictly the bus lanes because the whole point of those is to be able to get them across the entire region of Durham quicker than in a car. And if we allow anything else into those lanes, then that's not going to happen. It's going to slow down the buses and sort of not do what we've been trying to do. It's something we can bring up again. Definitely, it can look at, but the last 2 times I brought it up, it hasn't gone anywhere. Now, I wasn't the chair then. Maybe I can try it again this time, but there hasn't really been much of an appetite for those reasons because it is very efficient. Now, just to that particular route operates at over 150% efficiency. So what we thought it was going to do, it's doing 150% more. Or sorry, 1.5 times what we thought it was going to do. So it is very well used. If you do ever get the opportunity to use the Pulse system, I've done it several times. You guys have probably seen my Sean's Excellent Adventures with Rachel on the buses. It's been a good experience, and I learned a lot, and I brought those things back to transit for some improvements that we're looking at doing. But it is very well used. It's often hard to get a seat. It's so busy. So that's good. Yes, ma'am.
It's just so people can hear you online.
That's okay, I'm fine.
Okay.
So, I have a bit of a concern with the blue boxes,
Mhm.
and sometimes garbage, but, so I have a large blue box, the tall one, and, so it got damaged by the, blue box. Throwing a lot of, 50% of the time, it's thrown down or whatever, so, I went to pick up a new one about 1.5 years ago, because it out. It's the way they throw it around, whatever, right? And so that's costing money, and I have to go now again and pick up another one. They are complimentary, they're paid for if it's cracked. So I just want to make that point, if somebody, maybe council or whoever, can send a note out to them, mentioning that if they could be, I don't know who the contract is, has been awarded to, if it was Miller Waste or Waste Connection.
Yeah, it's Miller.
It is Miller?
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, it seems to be a problem. I also noticed that the garbage cans, somebody else's garbage cans put on your drive or whatever. And, that's not too much of a big deal. Like, I don't know who it is, but eventually it gets done, right? So it also makes the place look kind of messy, right?
Okay.
The area, the neighborhood. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Well, it is a contracted service, so if you are finding that you're getting some kind of unruly staff, I mean, we need to know about it. We can't police all that. So we've got AppJacks, which is an app for your phone where you can report those things. We've also got Durham Region has an app where it's specifically waste, where you can report it directly. And also if something gets missed. So if you are finding that, I don't know why anybody would slam them around, but if it does happen, you can certainly put that remark in, and then we'll know about it. And that much easier if we know about it the same day, and then we know who it was, and we can address it with that contractor specifically. So, but thank you for pointing out they are complimentary if you need a replacement. Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having this Mayor Collier live. This is very nice of you. I'll get to see you in person, and the council as well here. My name is Karam Qureshi. I'm a small business owner in downtown Ajax. I'm also the chair of downtown Ajax BIA. Maybe the next Q30 video you're going to do at downtown Ajax BIA, because town has improved it quite a bit last year, and it looks very beautiful, green, and we need some promotion from our council and the mayor as well. So one important suggestion based on the gentleman who spoke to me before about electrical chargers. I think we need to bring the statement charger in Ajax. Those small chargers are fine, but we need to have the partnership with Tesla Motors and bring the chargers here in the downtown Ajax BIA. And I tell you, because the cross-country donuts across the, in front of the cross-country donuts parking is kind of dead spot. Yep. Usually taxi cabs come over there, the guys hang out and smoke and kind of thing. They just come over there. So why not we utilize that space for parking, so that way people can be able to come charge the car and utilize our plaza for shopping and coffee and stuff. And also they can get to enjoy the other new downtown Ajax and the Harvard Plaza as well. Since we're bringing technology in, this will put Ajax on the map. Besides many things this town is doing, we appreciate that, but bringing the Tesla Motors superchargers into this and talk to them. I mean, if they can bring, they're going to bring a further version of the supercharger, next version of the supercharger. That would be super great to see it in the town. And that will promote tech companies to come in and have an office with us. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. That area you're talking about is still under, we're still waiting to get that Central Park development, or what the next reiteration of that will be. Unfortunately, that area, and if everybody's not familiar, the town-owned central area of the Ajax Plaza. We own the parking lot, and there was supposed to have been a development there. We're still waiting on that. That decision's been appealed. It's still in the courts. It's going in September. As soon as we can get the old developer out of the way, we're ready to go. Like, I want to get moving on that development as soon as possible. We have people lined up. If somebody wants to come along and build exactly what the plan already is, it can go really quickly. If they want to redo it and change it up, it's going to take a bit more time, but we're anxious to get that going. I can't see us doing, I want to manage expectations. I can't see us going ahead with any kind of charges or anything until that's done. Okay, because again, that downtown redevelopment is 4 parts. So we've got 1A, that section where you're talking about is 1B, 2, and 3. Right now, the lands have been acquired for the through streets in that area, and those things have to fall in place first. It's a great idea, and it's something that isn't a long-term vision, but I just want to manage your expectations that we won't be able to go ahead with something like that until we get the first piece out of the way. But yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't know what the plan is off the top of my head. I know we're doing the community centers first. and getting those done, like the public spaces first. One of the things I guess I'll segue into is the innovation hub that I've been working on, which is getting very close. That's what I was talking about, the big announcement. That's getting very, very close, and that's we're going to be integrating a lot of different things into that. I don't want to give too much away, but we're really going to be looking at connectivity. We're really going to be looking at a lot of different ways to encourage technology and that type of thing. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
Add something to that,
Okay.
so that you can elaborate more.
Okay.
I can speak on if you want. You can elaborate on it. I'm just going to remind you that if you can talk about, we already have a fast charger available in
Viridian,
Ajax.
or Alexicon.
Yes,
sorry.
please.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you go up on Taunton Road, I forgot about that, thank you, and I should remember that because I'm part of that organization. Up on Taunton Road, we do have the fast charger under it was Viridian, now Alexicon. We've merged with Whitby Hydro. Okay. So up there we do have a 3 or 4 different types of chargers. Yeah, and it's all free. So, well, it's not free. You're probably paying for it through your hydro bill, but you don't pay up front. So we do have those up there. I saw a gentleman here. Pardon me?
I'm just going to read this out.
Okay.
The Ford government is introducing Bill 108, which would serve to cut red tape around the development process to increase the supply of housing and encourage denser population and taller buildings. At the same time, it will reduce the fees that developers pay to the cities and towns to provide the necessary infrastructure, like pipes and parks and policing. How will you and the council address the extra costs brought on by the reduced fees developers will no longer have to pay?
That's an excellent question. And if you were with me earlier today, I was actually at a roundtable with Peter Bethlen-Falvey, the MPP from Whitby at Pickering-Uxbridge, who is the president of the Treasury Board, our MPP Rod Phillips, who is the new Minister of Finance, Lauren Coe from Whitby, and Prabmeet, thank you. I knew it was Prab, but Prabmeet, the new Associate Minister in charge of Economic Development and Red Tape. And we had a roundtable. There was all the different mayors were there, representatives from all the municipalities in the region of Durham, and we talked about this. And I did bring up Bill 108. I was the only one to bring up Bill 108. And I talked about that, and I talked with Rod Phillips a lot about this as well, in that we need more DCs. Development charges, growth has to pay for growth. What development charges are, for those that don't know, is if you buy a new house, $27,000 of what you pay for your new house is development charges. That money goes into reserves, and we use that money for the sewers in the ground, the roads, not the schools, the community centers, fire department, police department. Because with growth, we have to now have more people in the police department, more people in the fire department, more community centers, more roads, all these things. And growth doesn't pay for growth. Like, growth pays a portion of growth, and we have to pay the difference. That's why we can't automatically do, for instance, Westney Road. Westney Road was delayed for a long time because the DCs to widen Westney Road weren't there. So now with Bill 108, and the other shoes haven't dropped on this yet, they were waiting for the regulations. So they pushed through Bill 108 on June the 7th or something. It was like right on the 1-year anniversary of the election, and then went on break. And they're developing the regulations, and we don't know what those are. But I've been very clear in that part of what they're talking about is reducing the DCs, us having to choose between, again, if we do a new subdivision, we can say we want a certain percentage of that for green space for parks. But with the new Bill 108, we might have to decide whether we collect DCs or park space, one or the other, which we shouldn't have to make that decision. We need both. We want pedestrian-friendly live-work communities. We don't want all paved or all unpaved. So I don't think that's appropriate. So we talked about those things. We also talked about part of Bill 108 is to the LPAT, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, which if something comes to council and we turn it down, the developer has an option to appeal that to the LPAT board. There was changes made years ago to make that really, council didn't really stand a chance at the old Ontario Municipal Board, is what it was called before LPAT. It was geared differently. They're talking about changing the rules of LPAT back very much towards the way they were with the OMB, which takes the decision making out of our hands. So I'm very concerned with Bill 108. I'm part of LUMCO. LUMCO stands for the Large Urban Mayors Caucus of Ontario. So all the municipalities that are 100,000 population or more, of which there's 28 of them, so there's 28 mayors that sit on the LUMCO board. And our 28 mayors represent 80% of the population of Ontario. So that's a pretty big stick. So one of the things, we had a meeting and we had Minister Clark there, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, at our last meeting. And we talked about all the cuts that were coming in mid-year. We had already passed all our budgets, and then they had all these different cuts, which after we've already passed our budget, we can't go back and change. And we're also not allowed to run a deficit. So that created big problems. Well, on the Monday after that meeting, this meeting was on a Friday, on the Monday they reversed all those cuts. So I think that speaks a little bit to the strength of the voice of LUMCO. So I suggested to the chair, Cam Guthrie, the mayor of Guelph, that we form a subcommittee. And we have now. We formed a subcommittee of 8 mayors, because trying to get 28 mayors together is kind of like herding cats. It's difficult. Everybody's the schedules, it's very difficult. So we now have a subcommittee of 8 mayors where we're going to discuss these things. And Bill 108 is a huge one, first and foremost. And you know, we will be dealing directly with the provincial government on these matters. And that's how we're going to deal with it. I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of balls in the air right now with the province. But I've been very clear to stress to them that we want to work with you. I understand the mandate. I understand the mandate is to balance the books. I get it. And it's better if we support that rather than make changes and then have to backtrack like they have a couple of times. That doesn't look good. And you know, it's no good pushing something through and then everybody revolts and then you backtrack. It's better, let's work together. Let's have the open dialogue and communication. And that way, when it comes out, we can support it.
Let's not do it on the backs of the taxpayers.
Exactly. Exactly.
This is what the concern would be is, you know, all the development that's going on, less development fees, right? It's going to come to the taxpayers.
We have to pay it back, that's right. And I understand and the other thing is they're allowing developers to pay the development charges over, I think it's 6 years. So not only are we getting less money up front, but we've got to wait 6 years to get it. So if we need to build a road now, we can't, because we're not going to get the money. And the other thing is there's no guarantee. It's meant to incent the construction of more homes, but there's nothing in there to say that the developer has to pass on those savings to the purchaser, right? So there's nothing saying house prices are going to become more affordable. It's just, I only see the developer profiting from this. So I don't think it was a balanced approach, but we're making those recommendations, and hopefully they'll listen. Hopefully we'll work together and they'll listen.
So we have a ton of questions online right now, but I'm just going to turn it over to the back row, who's just been waiting very patiently with the microphone.
Okay, in the past you've talked about bringing jobs to Ajax so people can kind of work, play, live in the same community. I know for those who aspire to work for the town and for the municipality, would you consider creating kind of like an open house night, so either college students or older adults that are looking for, you know, another career or a second career chance, to be able to talk to the different departments to find out how their current skill set or skills they need to develop to create their path, so to speak, or to, you know, create their career path?
I love the idea. I'm not just trying to think how we would do it. I've asked often, why are we not hiring a lot more, what are they called, interns? And I'm told we can't hire interns because I guess there's been abuse in the past by some communities or businesses, and so now you can't hire interns. What we can hire is co-ops, right? And so if somebody is in the co-op program, we can do that. But if we have an application, even for, say, a customer service position or something, maybe one of the entry-level positions, we get literally thousands of applications.
Well, it's because so I'll speak from a personal on this. As someone who's coming from a very different background that would apply to, or that would be applicable to the town, and looking for a career shift, it's seen from the outside that the only way to get into the town is to get into that entry-level position, to be that, say, the part-time customer service rep that's posted
and
now,
move up.
right? And then kind of work your way up through there. That's just on the outside how it's seen. Now, because of my work with the Accessibility Committee, I know that's not necessarily the case, but I'm one of few that see that side of things. But I've often heard from talking with peers and such that it would be cool to hear what it takes to work in certain departments or work in certain areas to see if they have transferable skills to kind of shoot for the stars.
Okay.
Because working for a municipality is a big deal to a lot of people who want to have more pride in their town.
Okay. Have you attended any of our CEOs, what do they call it, cafe? CEOs cafes? Or are they? Okay, I'm sorry. Because that's where I think this would, because for me, I have no idea how much staff time would take to try and sort of man something like that, how to facilitate that. It's a great takeaway. I mean, add it to the list of things that I can't answer tonight, but I'll look into.
And with the I'll just take out loud. With the understanding that this does take time and resources, and what are the odds of people actually coming out to an event like that? Like, it's a lot of factors. So if that side wasn't possible, would it be possible to engage the departments? So if there was someone who was interested that came up and was like, hey, you know what? I'd love to see what rec and community engagement does. Would the head of the department then be open to having someone sit with them for a day in the life of kind of experience? A job shadow. Yeah, job shadowing experience.
Okay.
Because that might be a little more feasible than having to create this whole event.
Okay. Yeah, it's not something that is in the works right now, but it's definitely something we can look at. So we're taking notes. Somebody's taking notes, right? So there's always these things whenever we have these open houses that you just have to add to the list because we just haven't thought of it. So we'll add that one and we'll have to have a look at it.
So we're just going to go to a question online. This is a long one. This is from Chris. So for 2019, we received a town 4.75 tax increase. We were told it was required to support an expense reset recommended by the new council. 6 months into the year, can you give a brief update as to how the reset is going? Have there been any unexpected sources of revenue or government credits so far in 2019 that assist the town's expense portion?
Okay, the answer to the second part is no. Except for yes, we did actually. We had the one-time federal gas tax doubling this year. Right. So I'll talk to that in a minute. It's not 4.75, I think it's 4.93 was the final number because I added a little bit at the last meeting because I'll tell you why this came about. And I've been part of council for a long time, so I was part of all these prior budgets. And it was always nice to bring in a 2 1/4, 2%, 1 3/4. That sounds good. The residents don't mind it that much. But realistically, as I said before, the town's always growing. And you can only have the same amount of staff do more for a certain amount of time until they can't do any more. And case in point, Pan Am Games. We brought on all those extra sports fields and all that extra infrastructure to maintain all the soccer fields, everything else, but we never hired any more staff. What happened was we kind of robbed the staff the operation staff that were maintaining the boulevards and moved them over to now maintain all these high-end sports fields. So what happened is our boulevard maintenance, like I think we can all agree, and it happened, it's not, but we fixed it now, is I didn't like the state of repair the town sort of was falling into. I didn't like seeing, the litter. I didn't like seeing the grass overgrown. I didn't like seeing these things. So we identified a number of areas where we fell behind. And a big part of that is operations. We needed more people specifically just to go out and cut grass, people specifically just to go out and pick up litter. We identified a number of other areas in town staff, like a grant writer. One of the positions that we're hiring, and have they been hired yet? I know the interviews are going on right now.
We're almost there.
Okay. Is a grant writer. Their entire job is to go out and research federal, provincial grant applications. And they'll pay for themselves 10 times over. We didn't have that. There's also other things, non-tax revenues, things we're leaving on the table. We're looking at things like naming rights. Pickering was very successful in their naming right program. They raised $10 million of non-tax revenue in naming 3 facilities. And 2 of those facilities aren't even built yet. They're in Seton. There's a library and a community center in Seton, not even built yet, that they've sold the naming rights to already. Look at Oshawa with the Tribute Center. Right? They've got, I don't know how many $1 million in naming rights for that. So one thing is we've hired a lot of people, and I've said this before, I'm more a pull a Band-Aid off all at once kind of guy. We could have phased in the increase for those staff over a number of years, or we could just bite the bullet and do it. And we just bit the bullet and did it. Hopefully, we'll be able to, through efficiencies and non-tax revenues, be able to maintain that. But one thing I did commit to the residents is you will see the value that you're getting for those extra tax dollars through the increased service levels. We're raising the bar in our town as far as our maintenance, as far as our litter, as far as a lot of other different areas. So that's where the tax increase came from. I'm hoping it's a one-time reset, as I called it, and like I said, best just to get it done and move forward. But that was an accumulation of a lot of years where we probably should have done more and we didn't. And now we had to do catch-up all at once. One other thing I just want to segue into is Ajax Downs and our slots revenues, because next year when Durham Live opens, our $8 million a year at Ajax Downs might go down to 4 or 5, 3, right? We've never used that money for operating. We've always used that for capital. So we use that to accelerate capital programs like the Audley Rec Center Phase 1 and 2, this building, our fire hall, our operations center, Quaker Meeting House, Memorial Pool, just to name a few of the large capital projects. So we've done most of our large capital builds now, and we were able to accelerate those and do those before they would normally have been done and incur very little debt. Okay, so those are done. So even if we were to lose that $8 million, that doesn't mean we have to automatically go back to the residents for a tax increase, because we're not using it for operating, we've used it for capital. Okay, and we did build in approximately a 1% per year tax, I won't call it tax decrease. We didn't have to increase taxes by about 1% per year by avoiding debt and avoiding that debt repayment. Okay, so instead of giving an upfront reduction from the money, which some people wanted, which would mean if we lost it, we would have to raise taxes to replace it later, we gave a sort of 1% deferral each year by debt avoidance. Hope I answered that question on the tax increase. Cecily?
First of all, a comment. I'm not sure if anybody from the region is aware of Ryerson University's basketball floor that they put in their new facility at Old Maple Leaf Gardens. It is actually made from yogurt containers.
Oh, good.
So
okay.
It might be something to look into. Is there a market out there for plastic yogurt containers?
Note that.
Somebody might want to go visit it and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And can you update us on, has there been any movement on tertiary treatment for the waterfront?
Well, actually, there has been a bit of movement because we have a new Minister of the Environment, so that's interesting. I think, and I'm not speaking for Rod, I've had lots of conversations with him, but it's my impression that being his home riding, it was difficult being in that Minister of the Environment position to move. I don't know if it was or not, if that was part of it, but that was my take on it. I think now that we have a Minister of the Environment that's not the local person, I think they'll probably be able to address this and get moving on it. We still don't have, the answer is no. Nothing's happened on it since, but I'm hopeful that it will. I'll just talk quickly. I got back, you saw in the video, one of the conferences I went to, and Joanne Dyes came as well, was the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And Great Lakes is an organization made up of many of the lakeshore municipalities, and we talk about water. And some of the resolutions we passed, one of the ones we passed was to do with, as we know, Lake Erie has to now have treatment and major phosphorus reduction, and they set their target for Lake Erie at 40%. When the resolution came forward, I stood up and went and moved an amendment, and the amendment passed unanimously that we look at having phosphorus, we request that the province have a phosphorus reduction on all the Great Lakes. And my thrust of my argument on that is we don't want Lake Ontario or any of the other lakes to get to the condition of Lake Erie before we do something. So we've requested the province initiate a phosphorus reduction plan for the Great Lakes. And what I've said to the Minister of the Environment every time I talk to him is, there's nothing to lose on this. I mean, if you order tertiary treatment, he goes, what if it doesn't work? Well, what if it doesn't work? Like, you're setting an example. You're raising the bar. You're saying, this is what we're going to do now. What I've also asked, I met Andrew Scheer at an event a couple of weeks ago at the tank event in Oshawa. And I asked him, I said, is the federal government considering a national water strategy? Because Canada is one of the few nations in the world that does not have a national policy on clean drinking water. We have a patchwork of different things on a provincial level, but we have no set national standard. And I think we need to have a national standard because the province regulates the certificates of the environment, the Minister of the Environment regulates what goes into the lake from the sewage treatment plants. But the federal government of Fisheries and Oceans is responsible for the Great Lakes as a whole, and it's kind of, no, it's not my problem, it's theirs. No, it's not, well, it's all our problem, but somebody's got to do something. If the federal government had a national strategy and a national standard where they set levels, a provincial government would have to align with that. So that was my message, and anybody that's associated with the Trudeau government, if they want to take that back as well, I mean, I think the federal government, whatever it's going to be, needs to address drinking water in Canada. And I think the party that does that, in my opinion, is going to set themselves apart in a big way, because we all need water. Everybody does. You need it to live. And we have one of the wonders of the world right here on our doorstep, being the Great Lakes. So we need to protect it. We're doing it at the Great Lakes level. What happened to the mic? Oh, we're doing it at the Great Lakes level. We're doing it, I would love to see the federal government, because the federal government trumps everybody, right? The province trumps us. They trump them. So if they were to take that initiative, I think that would go a long way. I'll keep the pressure on the minister, but they don't always listen to what we have to say. Rachel?
So I just want to go to another online question, and this one's actually coming from Twitter, and it's from Future Durham. With rezoning the golf property on Church Street, what developments will take place on that land? Is that going to be part of Durham Live?
Oh, that's a secret. Okay. There's an application in for rezoning of Annandale Golf Course. It's not public, but I guess it's okay to talk about it. We don't know. But what I do know is it's not in the Greenbelt. It's land that can be used for employment. So if we can rezone it, if it is rezoned for employment use, because right now it's I guess green space, but that doesn't, it is in an area we can zone for employment. I don't know what will go there, and I don't know if Durham Live will own it. I know they made an offer. I'm told the offer wasn't successful. The applicant wants to rezone it themselves and then sell it after. So it's up in the air right now, but it's exciting. I mean, it's great to see. We've only been in for 7 months, but there's significant changes happening. Like, people are coming to Ajax now and wanting to invest. I talked to our planning department, talked to Dave Meredith last week, and said, you know, he basically said, we're overwhelmed. Like, there's so many applications in right now that they're just, and I said, do you need more people? Like, because I do not want us, like, my whole thing was cut the red tape. Do we need more people? Because I don't want things to be delayed. Like, let's get these moving. So they're okay for now. We're monitoring it, but yeah, there's a lineup now of people coming and wanting to invest in this great town, whether it be residential or commercial. So those are some of the, again, I'm hoping to make these announcements pretty soon, but there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff. Jen?
Okay. Thank you for answering the casino question. I wondered about the monies. Sorry if I have a big voice, honestly.
Okay.
Because everyone wants to hear you online, too.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for answering about the revenue from the casino.
Absolutely.
Because I get asked all the time, and I know it was probably in the papers, but maybe that was a day I didn't read the paper. Anyway, my question is regarding the Village Senior Center,
okay,
as you can well imagine. At the Age Friendly Conference, which was held just this past Saturday, it was really very well run, by the way. Very well organized. There's a lady from Probus who said, oh, the mayor came to see us, and he said that there's going to be a new center built on the village site. To me, it makes sense, because the village is going to be central, because we've got all that growth in the north, we still have the south. I want to know, is this a rumor, or is this something that the council has talked about? And if so, what's the projected timeline?
Okay, good question, good question. I think maybe they took what I said a little bit the wrong way. I'll clarify. I've represented that area since 2003. Ward 1 was sort of my home turf when I first started as a local council, and I've always said that like I took skating lessons at the Village Arena when I was a little kid, so it's been there a long time. I've been there a long time, and it's at the end of life. It's costing us a lot of money to maintain it, and we need more ice. We're at 97% capacity of all our arenas. We're going to need more ice as well. That's why we've kept it going. But it's pretty much end of life. Same with the small senior center that's there as well, that little building. And the Village Library was just announced last week will be closing in October, just because it's down about 70% on the, what do you call it when people take the books out? I don't want to say enrollment, but whatever it is, it's down about 70%. So it doesn't make sense to keep that operating anymore. That site to me has always been ideal for some kind of community building, whether it be a seniors building, whether it be an art center, whether it be a new like digital type of library, because we don't necessarily need books anymore. Everything's really gone digital. I don't know. But what I did say was, and I have talked about it through our strategic planning process, is adding that as a future capital project in that site. And at the Probus meeting, I said that I'm looking at a future capital project. When I say that, I would say at least 5 years. Because we can't just put a $10 million project in the capital budget. It has to be slotted in, and we need to have the funds available. So a couple of things, that would be something that a huge reduction in the slots revenues would push out. We may get another windfall in federal gas tax. That'd be awesome. I mean, these are things we could use, but it's got to go through the planning process, and it can't be bumping other projects, and we've got to find out where the right fit is and exactly what it should look like. And that will go through a whole public consultation process as well. Just like we did with the Audley Rec Center Phase 2. We went out to the community and we said, what should we put here? And we heard everything from, well, ice pads, but ice pads will be probably Phase 3. But we heard things like a library, like more gym space, like a public, like a banquet hall, like a meeting room is one of the things that's going in there. There's an outdoor trail that's going to be, I think, a skating thing. There's a lot of stuff, but that's all through the public consultation, and this would go through public consultation as well. So it's a long-range capital project that I've asked to be put in, and it'll be part of, if it shows up on our capital budget meeting in December, that'd be great. We just have to have our staff look at it and figure out what it's going to cost, and we'll go through that process.
So right now it's just an idea? So I can go
It's a
ahead
suggestion.
and sign a 5-year lease, right?
You can sign a 5-year lease.
Okay, got it. Thank
So
you.
I just want to go to another online question. We've got almost 50 people online, and we've got a ton of questions. And I'd just like to remind people who are online, if we don't get to answer your question tonight, we will follow up with you in the coming days. So this one is from Miriam. What are we doing to create space for youth in Ajax? Youth have no place to go to be mentored or learn about entrepreneurship and creating opportunities in creative and tech industries.
Okay. Well, we've done quite a few things for youth. I want to use, like we've got our youth centers in all our community centers, and we've done a number of different initiatives. We have the Youth Leadership Program. We've done our Up Next Ajax. We have our youth ambassadors. We do everything we can to promote. One thing, though, that really worked was our Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park, when and for those who aren't aware, we basically set up a 24-foot screen in Pat Bailey Square, and we had, we watched the Raptors games, and then we moved it indoors during the rain, and like I said in the video, I've never seen the community come together like that. That was incredible, and that brought out, and our staff were awesome. They put that together in a day. I called them on the Wednesday morning and said, we should do this, and by Wednesday afternoon, they said, yeah, it's a go, we're doing it. It was amazing. So that brought out youth from everywhere, and especially I don't want to. The black youth came out, enforced that. It was great. This has been a demographic we'd never been able to really engage, and that was important because a big part of this whole thing is inclusivity. We talk about diversity, but how do we get all the groups out together? And that's always been the hard nut to crack. Is how can we do that? Because if I go to, I don't know, pick any group event, it's mostly that group, whether it be a church group, whether it be a particular religion or whatever. How do we get all those together? Well, that Jurassic Park got them all together. There was people there from everyone. It was awesome. So to the question, we have a number of youth programs, but I just don't know if they're appealing to those specific youth that the question asker is relating to. But I can tell you the Jurassic Park really worked. So we need to figure out more events and things that we can do to reach those demographics. Hope that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the whole thing about Pat. I just want to talk about Pat Bailey Square for a second. And I'm surprised, how are we doing for time? I'm surprised nobody's asked about Paradise Park. Because, okay, is it coming? Yeah. I'm surprised nobody's asked about the washings at Paradise Park, because that was a bit contentious, and we had funds for that in the budget, $2.5 million, and it came in at $3.2 million. So through our capital project management policy, there's 3 options. You can send it back and have staff look at it and come back with a revised plan. You can have it go ahead and basically that 700,000 would come off of another capital project, so it would bump another capital project or something. Or, what's the third one? Or you just cancel it altogether. So what we did was we referred it back, and then at the last meeting, we allowed all the landscaping, trail connections, everything to complete it except the washroom, approved this year, and the cost was about $287,000, $290,000, and then asked staff to come back next year with a revised price and plan for a washroom facility. That's what we did at Pat Bailey Square. When Pat Bailey Square came forward, it was over budget, and what we did was it was $700,000 odd over budget. We cut the Jumbotron out, $680,000. There was supposed to be a big Jumbotron in Pat Bailey Square. Well, that's something I'd love to get back. And that's one thing that I'm thinking gas tax-wise, if they come through with the gas taxes, that would be a great use for something like that, because, again, that's a thing that we can use to really bring the community together. Instead of renting a 24-foot inflatable screen, if we can get that, what was originally planned, back in there, I think that we can really program that space to appeal to a lot of the youth groups, to a lot of the other different community groups, whether it be soccer, whether it be cricket, whether it be, I don't know, Super Bowl, pick anything. It'd just be a great place, and that's what we designed that square to do. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see come forward as well. Who do we have? Azar?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question regarding 2015, our group Toastmasters won the debate for an airport in the Durham region. So what's the progress, because a lot of people are asking this question. And my second question regarding any university for our youth or some technology is coming to Ajax?
I can talk about both those. The airport, first of all, again, at the Economic Development Roundtable today, we talked about that. Ajax Council, about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, passed a resolution in support of an airport in Pickering, in theory, based on a satisfactory business plan. So if the KPMG business plan, or whatever they call it, says that it's needed and the business plan supports it, yeah, because the economic benefits are going to be huge for Ajax and for the region of Durham. In fact, we're already seeing a lot of the investment that we're seeing in Ajax, and I'm hopefully going to be able to announce soon, is, I think, due to people expecting an airport to be here. Because right now, if you look out in Mississauga, you've got some, like, I don't know, what is it 61 major headquarters in Mississauga all around the airport. And that's the type of thing that it attracts, but there's been a whole lot of development to the west, but nothing to the east. Now we're getting all this investment to the east, like for instance, Gordon Foods. Gordon Foods is making a $140 million investment here in Ajax. They're bringing 600 new jobs. And their distribution center is all east, because they don't want to have to keep crossing the city. We're going to see more and more companies come and invest here on the east side if there is an airport here. So I hope that answers that. We did discuss it today. But again, it's all based on this plan. Those lands were expropriated 47 years ago. The KPMG has been commissioned to do the business plan, or it's not called the business plan, it's called something, but whatever it's called, it's a business plan. And I am really hoping this becomes, and part of the reason why I brought the motion forward for Ajax Council to support it was, I want to make this an election issue. It's a federal election this year. Ask your MP, ask your future MPs, ask any candidate that comes to your door. Let's try and make this an election issue. Let's get a decision on this. It's been 47 years. But that would be a great economic driver. The second part was, what are we doing as far as technology? And well, I've been talking to Trent University, Durham College, and Ontario Tech about, I would love to get a campus here. We've talked to them about doing a master's program, a PhD program, but one place we've been really successful is working with Ali at Durham College and the tech and the AI. And we sponsored the AI Summit, and we've got the Cyber Olympics coming up in the fall, and they're going to be holding, what's it called with the Cyber Olympics here? But the big wrap-up event is going to be held here. So, and that's going to tie in with our tech hub. So yes, we're working towards a lot of these things. Again, we've only been here for 7 months, but there's been a lot of progress in 7 months. So give us another 5, and I think we're going to really have some good things for our youth, because technology is the future, and our youth are the future, and we need to enable them as much as we can. And there's some really exciting things coming.
So I have another question online from Roger, who's been patiently waiting. And his question is about the lower Harwood Avenue, just south of Dryer and Westney. And just wondering if there's going to be any additional work down there in regards to the bike paths, multi-use trail, parking, just down in the south side of Harwood Avenue.
No public meeting would be a public meeting without discussing Lower Harwood. Okay. I've asked our staff to look into some options because this was something that was asked to me during the second last debate at the ACC. And I said, I think we made a mistake on this. I think we need to go back and look at it. And I committed to doing that, and I have. So with our new road designs, what we're doing is when possible, a sidewalk on one side and an asphalt trail on the other side. And because to have two sidewalks, bicycles can't go on the sidewalk. The Highway Traffic Act doesn't allow it. So having a sidewalk on one side, a multi-use trail on the other side, gets those cyclists off the road. And it allows those two, because a big part of cyclists is, you have people walking their dogs and the leash, and, it's better to separate them. And those of you that did the mayor's ride saw that too. They're jumping off the trail when they saw 100 bikes coming. But we're looking at that. So what if we replaced one side with an asphalt trail? And if we did that, could we get the cyclists off the road onto the asphalt trail for that section? It's not going to change. All the parking is going to stay. All the rainwater gardens are going to stay. That's infrastructure that's there. We use gas tax for it. If we take it out, we'd have to repay the gas tax. So that is all going to stay because it's important that we have parking down there at Harwood Point Gardens. We want people from the north and everybody else to be able to come down and access that area of the waterfront and enjoy it. That's for everybody. So that lower section from Clover Ridge down is not going to change. The upper section, I don't think we need 2 lanes north and south on that, but apparently the green is people find it confusing, and if we can solve that by putting an asphalt trail on one side, that's something I'm willing to look at. And we don't have the answer for it yet, but I've got staff working on it.
So let's just take another question from the audience, then we'll move into trivia.
Cecily.
Anyone who hasn't asked?
Thank you. I wanted to go back to the airport issue. Now, quite a few of us in South Ajax are not in favor of an airport because at this point in time, it shows the landing flight or path to be directly over our backyards.
The alternate runway, yeah.
Okay. When the City of Toronto wanted to expand and Porter wanted to expand into the island airport, that was one of the contentious issues, was planes coming over people's properties and landing at the airport. Again, the noise factor.
Yeah, they had to extend the runway 400 meters to allow that.
But that's why we see so many of them now. The flights into the island actually come over Ajax to avoid going over the city. So, and I got that from someone that was involved with the Toronto airport expansion. So what could we do to, or is there any way we would have any leverage that if the Pickering Airport goes ahead, that we could have the flights go north, or like the landing patterns be north or whatever, so that they're not going directly over our backyards when they're landing, because they're pretty low at that point.
I'll do my best to answer that. To the Billy Bishop Airport, they wanted to have jets because the propeller planes, their furthest reach was South Carolina. And they wanted to be able to, in order to extend any further than that, they needed to have jets. And in order to do that, they needed to extend the runway at Billy Bishop, Toronto Island Airport by 400 meters, and that got voted down. So to the flight path, though, I used to live down at the lake, moved 2 years ago to North Ajax, but I would walk down there often when I had a dog, and I noticed a lot of planes. And I looked into it, and the flight path had been changed probably about, 10 years ago, 10 years ago? It was a long time ago. I'm like, why is there so many planes? It's because the flight path already changed and went right over Ajax. And I thought that was interesting. Like, they're high enough, you don't really hear them. What they're saying is, on the approach, once you get within a certain and those that haven't seen the plan for the Pickering, proposed Pickering Airport, yeah, the main runways run east-west, I think it is. I'll call it east-west. But the alternate runway, depending on the wind direction, comes diagonal and covers Ajax, goes over Ajax. That would be the backup if the wind was in the wrong direction for the planes, if they couldn't land east-west. So whenever that is, it wouldn't be all the time. But the way it was explained is as they come in, they would be sufficiently high, like 1,500 feet plus, that it's not going to be a big thing. I don't know what that means. It's going to have to, anything that happens there, go through a full public process, right? And I can't say whether they would change directions or not. I don't know. It's just a proposal right now. And again, I guess all this is part of the KPMG plan as well. I don't know enough about it to really speak knowledgeably about that, but I'm trusting that a lot of these questions will be fleshed out through the research that's being done by the consultants. We'd have to address that through the public process. So but right now, I mean, we could squawk all we wanted about it. I don't know that anybody would be listening right now. We need the decision to be made first. And again, if the business plan comes back and says it's not warranted, it's not going to go ahead. So I don't want to speculate until we get to that. If that's okay.
Okay, so we're going to go to trivia. This is our final trivia. And make sure that you put your hand up and don't yell out the answer. What group of women does the monument located at Pat Bailey Square pay tribute to? Someone who hasn't answered yet. Who hasn't answered yet?
In the back row.
You got it. Also known as? The Bomb Girls.
Harder questions. Harder questions. I'm going to make up the next question.
Well, we have a bonus one, so you might have to. Which ward is the St. Francis Center in? Over here. Go ahead. Ward 1. You are correct.
And you have your full representation here for Ward 1. Yeah.
True or false? Remember, don't yell it out. There are currently 30 individually designed heritage properties in Ajax. I'm not even sure what the... Oh, right here. You seem to know. Right here in the front row.
True.
It's true.
All right.
Okay, we've got 3 more to go
I want to see
here.
the bonus question.
Okay, true or false? The town of Ajax has a regional and a ward
Thank you
councillor
for
for each of its 3 wards. True. And they're all
Is it
mostly
true?
all here.
It's true.
This is an easy one. It's a town. Okay, so I'm going to leave the final question to Mayor Collier. If you'd like to think of one on the spot right now
Oh, man.
to make it fun.
I was going to address the city-town one.
Oh.
All right, let me think about that for a second. I just want to talk about it because sometimes people ask, when are we going to become a city? I'm like, we're not. There's no benefit becoming a city. It's exactly the same. City, town, there's no economic benefit for us being a city. It's just a name. And I'll use Pickering as an example. Pickering became the city of Pickering back when they were 80,000 population, and we were about 75,000 population. And we remain the town of Ajax. And now we're 126,000 population, and Pickering's 98. City, town, I mean, it makes no difference. One thing I love about being town of Ajax is we maintain that community feel. I don't know that I want to be a big thriving metropolis. I don't know that anybody here does anybody here want to be a big thriving metropolis? Or do we like okay. So really, I get asked that often. And actually one of the candidates in the last election, that was part of their platform, we're going to become a city. And I'm like, oh, good luck with that. I don't think that's going to go very far. Let me think of a question. Let's take one more question while I think. Who has one more? Rachel, you want to go back to the phone?
Okay, 1 second. So here's a question from online from Anne Marie. Are there any plans to install a crosswalk or traffic lights to connect the neighborhoods north and south of the new part of Roslyn Road, west of Church Street? This is particularly a safety concern for kids crossing this 4-lane road.
Roslyn Road, west of Church, so between Riverside and Church. Okay. That's a counselor question, Marilyn.
Let me just come over with the mic.
There will be a new light installed at that same location, Riverside and Roslyn.
Okay.
The
Will that have
region-
pedestrian crossing?
Yeah, pedestrian crossing. There's going to be a median put in. It's all been approved through the region. It's just timing now.
Good. Okay, so the answer is yes. And I thought of a question.
Excellent.
I thought of a question. This year marks the 80th anniversary of what? Relating to the town of Ajax in our history.
Remember to raise your hand.
Nope. Nope.
The mayor
Anyone?
mentioned it in his first 30 Qs video from the first live with the mayor.
Anyone? Anyone? You guys know?
I don't. The end of the World War II.
Close.
Something to do with Argentina.
Partly, yes. It's something that happened in Montevideo, Uruguay.
Can I provide a hint?
Sure. Yes. Battle of the River Plate.
Battle-
On December 13th, 1939, the Battle of the River Plate occurred in Montevideo, Uruguay. And the reason why I brought that up is because this year, the 80th anniversary on December the 13th, I will be in Montevideo, Uruguay, proudly representing the town of Ajax at the exact location in the ocean where the battle took place. And what makes that really, really cool is I'll be also joined by Jonathan Harwood and the Harwood family. And Admiral Harwood was the captain of the Achilles, I think he was?
He was the Ajax.
Was he the? Okay, the Ajax. But his son, Sebastian, was here last week, and we spent time with them, gave them the tour. So again, we continue that history. So the Veterans Association of the Battle of the River Plate and the Veterans Association of the HMS Ajax sailors will be there as well, those that can make it. So it's going to be a really, really cool event. We'll also be going to the Langsdorff Museum while we're there as well. So it's just a huge part of our history and just a very, very important thing, and I'm honored to be able to represent the town at that. So that was my question, so I just thought I'd bring that up so we could discuss.
That's great.
Yes?
Langsdorff was the captain of the
The Graf Spree.
The
Graf
Spree.
Spree.
Any of his relatives around that's going to be...
That I don't know. What I do know is I'm taking a Langsdorff street sign because we have a street named after Langsdorff, and I got to try and fit that in my luggage. But we will be going to the Langsdorff Memorial and everything there. And I've got to brush up on my history on this, but my understanding is, because it was a bit controversial when we named Langsdorff, because people are saying, why are you naming it after a Nazi? But he did the honorable thing. Got his crew off safely, scuttled the ship, and saved a lot of the Allied force as well. And that's why we commemorated that. So I'll be taking the Langsdorff sign there and presenting that to them at that as well. So it's going to be very, very exciting and a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, yeah.
I actually have the original DVD with Gregory Peck in it. If you'd like to borrow it and watch it, it's got the whole battle.
I would. I'll take you up on that.
Excellent.
I'll take you up
So
on
we
that.
had a lot of questions that we've answered here live and also a ton of questions online. We are going to invite everybody who's here to stick around and stay for a reception. We have some nice refreshments, opportunity to chat with mayor and members of council who are here as well. So before we move into closing remarks, I'd just like to end with one other online question, and that's just regarding traffic along Westney Road. So this question came in just in regards to commuter traffic for those either driving into the city or taking the GO train, that there's a lot of traffic between Westney and the GO station. And are there any plans to help alleviate that, as well as any opportunities to work with GO in terms of traffic coming in and out of the station?
Well, I would love it if, the answer is yes, I would love it if we could get more people into transit. That would really help with that congestion if more and more people would take transit. I don't know if you know, but Metrolinx has a copay. So if you actually take transit, if you live north and you take the 915 straight down Westney to the GO station, it costs you 75 cents. They pay the rest of your fare. And you can't drive your car there for 75 cents. I would love it, and this might not be popular, but I would love it if Metrolinx charged for parking. Because if they charge for parking instead of providing 2,000 free spots, more people would probably use transit, right? We've already changed from the circular routes. The old circular routes, if you lived here, you might get to the GO station quick in the morning, but it's going to take you a long time to get home at the end of the day. So people would drive. But now we've gone to north, south, east, west routes. We've taken those circulars out. I wish people would give transit more of a try, and I don't know how to do that. We're working on, I don't know how to get people more into it, but that would help solve a lot of things. To what we're doing as a region, I mentioned that the DCs weren't there to provide the widening of Westney Road all in one shot. We did from Highway 2 to Roslyn now. And next year, is it Maryland? It's going from Roslyn to Taunton. So 2020, it's in design phase now. So next year, Roslyn or Westney will be widened all the way up to Taunton Road. And sidewalks. And finally, because during the 2010 election, I was telling people it's 2012 because that's when it was in the budget. And then it got bumped, and then it got bumped. And the reason why it got bumped was the interchange at the 407 in Westney was taken out. And the region had to focus the monies on those roads that had the egress points on the 407. So Simcoe got money, Thixon got money, Harmony got money, right? But Salem and Westney were taken out, so those roads weren't high priority anymore. So they will now be done next year. And yeah, that answers that question.
Do we have time for one last question from online?
Okay.
What are we doing to maintain green space in the town? With all these new builds and new houses, more and more green space is being removed.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Any green spaces that are being developed are zoned for development. Any parks you can't develop. So any green space that we have is already zoned through the official plan for development, and so that's not technically what we call green space. That's green field. Of those, when a development happens, we retain a portion of that, and I think it's 5%. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 5% for green space and for a park? But if it's a very small site, we'll take cash in lieu, and we'll use that cash to do a park somewhere else. Right? So that's how we do it. So there's no development happening that's taking up park space. That is land that is slated for development, and but we are making sure that we do have parks and green space to accommodate those new developments. And one thing I wanted to speak to quickly that I brought up today is we need a planning tool, because I'll just give you two examples. If we have a property that's zoned commercial, employment lands, we have a need for long-term care facilities, and the province has identified we need more long-term care facilities. However, if you want to build a long-term care facility in a prestige employment land, you can't, because that's zoned residential. It doesn't matter if it's got 500 beds, that would have 600 staff, because there's 3 shifts in there, right? To me, 600 staff is employment. And if you can meet the employment targets, or in that case, the employment targets times 5 or 6 for that piece of property, that should qualify, but it doesn't. Under the current planning, that has to go through a municipal comprehensive review, a 4 to 5 year period. Same thing vice versa. If we have a residential property and you want to build a 20-story apartment building, you can. But if you want to put 3 or 4 levels of office space at the base for employment, and then you can't, because that's now commercial. And you have to go through, again, a 4 or 5 year municipal comprehensive review. We need a planning tool that allows common sense to prevail in some of these things and let us move things forward. Again, this is the task. The roundtable today was about cutting red tape. That's one of the suggestions I made, to cut red tape. And that's what Bill 66, Section 10 would have been very helpful in. And I said, okay, that got shut down. Give us something to allow us to move these things forward instead of having to get all caught up. Hope that answered.
Excellent. So we actually recently relaunched our Instagram account. And so tonight we've actually been covering this whole event on Instagram, and we got our first Instagram question. So I know we're about to wrap up, but I think this is a great question to conclude with. What is happening with the empty lot across the street from Town Hall and Library? The Salvation Army building used to be there.
The Salvation Army building is going to be there. That was taken down. They took those buildings down to avoid squatters going in there. The Salvation Army has temporary space that they're operating out of, and they're in the last little bit of their site plan, I believe, is they've received the comments back, and they just have to apply for their building permit, and that's ready to go. So they just took those down just to stop, any kind of other uses happening on that site since the buildings were empty. And the new Salvation Army building, Jerry Coughlin from Coghlan Homes, a local resident donated $2 million to Salvation Army a few years ago for this new building. And they've just been going through the planning process. So that's going to be happening very soon. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good to
Are we good?
Closing remarks.
I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules, for coming out, for getting involved in your community and asking questions and you know, being engaged. It's great. You know, sometimes we have huge groups, sometimes we have small groups. This is a great group. You had great questions, and I really appreciate you coming out and getting involved in your community, and I hope that I was able to answer your questions properly, and for those that we couldn't answer, we'll get answers for them, and I guess we'll post those. But yeah, we're trying to reach out in all different things. Tomorrow night is the Ward 1.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that quickly?
Yeah, really quickly. Marilyn, Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and I are hosting our Community Ward 1 meeting. Thank you. I was saying Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and I, Rob Tyler Morin, Councillor for Ward 1, are hosting our Ward 1 meeting, community meeting. So everybody come out to Harvick House, which is on Roberson Drive, a beautiful street. Starts at 7 o'clock, right? Yeah, would love to see everyone there.
And there's a Ward 2 meeting coming. Councillor Lee.
Thank you. Councillor Khan and I are having our Ward 2 Town Hall at the Audley Rec Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with Ajax Fire as our special guests for the first bit of it.
When?
On Wednesday, June 26th.
Okay, so we've got Ward 1 tomorrow.
Yeah. Can I do
Ward 2 on Wednesday. Do your PS.
My PS is that Inspector Haskins is going to be there, and he's in charge of Durham West. So
Inspector
he's
for Durham
a very,
West.
very smart man, and lots of policing questions, I'm sure.
Is there a Ward 3 one coming up, or is
September.
it September? Okay, so we won't do Ward 3, but
You guys filled up this month.
okay, but a big part of this is, and the reason for that probably is because we only have one administrator for council, and that's Devin, and we can only spread Devin so thin, and she's actually off sick tonight. She's feeling terrible, so hopefully she's feeling better for you guys tomorrow. But a big part of this new council is really wanting to engage, really wanting to give the community every option, whether it be social media, whether it be, you know, we're all accessible by phone, or open houses, events like this, is to come out, get engaged. We want to be fully accessible, open, and answer any questions you might have and take any suggestions, because this is how we learn what we're doing right, what we're not doing so well on, and how to improve. So that's the goal. Please come out and attend wherever you live. Even if you don't live in Ward 1, you can still go, or Ward 2, you can still go. And our next Live with the Mayor is September 19th, 18th, and it's going to be, have we decided yet? Not yet. So to be determined, but we had one suggestion. Wards, okay, we're going to move them around. We're going to move them around. So, all right, well, thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions, please see us after.